Today, I'll try to explain you the most popular work visa in the United States. It's called H-1B Specialty Occupation or H-1B Professional Worker Visa. What is an H-1B visa? Who can apply for it? When can you apply for it? What can you do to increase your chances of getting an approval? And any other questions you may have about the H-1B application, including the path to get a green card, will be included in this video. So today we're diving into the most popular non-immigrant work visas ever, H-1B Specialty Occupation or H-1B Professional Worker Visa. I will also cover the upcoming administration's view on the H-1B visas, which seems to have shifted a lot in the last few weeks. Indeed, if you look at Trump's first administration, there were a lot of challenges against the H-1B visa. USCIS came up with the H-1B RFEs and denials that we have never seen before. But in the recent weeks, Trump seems to have changed his mind. He said that he likes the H-1B visa and that the talented people should come to the United States and stay in the United States. He actually said in a few interviews that whoever went to school in the United States should stay in the United States and should probably get a green card too. Elon Musk also said that you need to get the super talented people in the United States and the H-1B visa is to get them. So currently the new administration's shift seems to have focused on the H-1B visa in a really good way that we have not seen before in the first Trump administration. So what is the importance of the H-1B visa then? Today, most companies try to get their foreign talent based on the H-1B visa. India is the largest beneficiary with 75% of the H-1B visas issued to Indian citizens. It's also an important visa for the startups. Immigrants have 55% of the billion-dollar startups in the United States. So there's a lot of companies, big and small, who rely heavily on the H-1B visa to attract the top talent in the United States. So what is an H-1B visa? It's a temporary work visa for skilled professionals in specialty occupations such as IT, engineering, healthcare, education, and you name it. The basic requirement is you need to have a bachelor degree in the field of assignment. So if you're going to work as an engineer, you need a degree in engineering. If you're going to work as a market research analyst, you need a degree in marketing, and so forth. Of course, you can have a higher degree. You can have a master's degree, you can have a PhD degree, but the least you can have is a bachelor degree. If you don't have a bachelor degree, but you have years of progressive experience in the field, you may be qualified as well. The way it works is every 3 years of work experience is equal to 1 year of college degree. So let's say you have a 2-year associate degree and 6 years of progressive experience as a market research analyst. So let's say you have an associate degree, a 2-year degree, 6 years of experience in the IT field. We may be able to combine the associate degree and the experience that you have gained in the job and get a US bachelor degree evaluation in an IT field. So this way you may be qualified for the H-1B application. This is not easy. It requires a US professor granting college degree to find that you have the equivalency for a bachelor degree. So aside from possessing at a minimum a bachelor degree or its equivalent, you also need a professional job offer from a US company. The job offer you receive must be for a position that requires at a minimum a bachelor degree in a specific field. This job offer is also the sponsorship for the H-1B visa. I also want to talk a little bit about the H-1B cap and the lottery system. H-1B has a set annual quota for every year. There is an annual limit for H-1B visa numbers. The annual limit is at 85,000. 65,000 of this is for regular H-1B quota, and the additional 20,000 is for US master degree or higher degree holders. Because there's a lot of applications and there is a limited number of available H-1B visas, there is a lottery conducted every year to figure out who will get into the quota. In the recent years, there are 200,000, 300,000 applications for H-1B visas every year. So what USCIS does is it receives the registrations from the sponsoring companies, it conducts a random lottery, and then lets the companies who won the lottery know about the H-1B lottery results. These companies can then file their H-1B applications with USCIS within a certain time frame. So let's talk about the H-1B registration process. Applications are submitted in March of every year. This is usually the first 1 or 2 weeks of March, where companies register their beneficiaries into the system so that they can be included in the lottery selection. Once USCIS runs the random selection, it will let the employers know in its portal that their H-1B is selected for this year's quota. The companies will usually then have 90 days to get together their application and file it with the USCIS. USCIS will take a look at the application. USCIS can approve the petition once it receives it and adjudicates it, or USCIS can send an RFE, request for evidence for the application. This is where USCIS has additional questions before being able to adjudicate the case. Receiving an RFE sounds scary, but most of the time, if you respond to the RFE properly, your case will be approved. So now is the right time to get ready for the H-1B application, because this is the H-1B quota season. In January or February, find your employer. Make sure you are registered by the first week of March. And to do that, you should find your attorney probably a couple of weeks before March 1st. And then make sure you provide all the documentation that is required for the H-1B quota registration. So if you get selected with the registration, you will probably know by the end of March, beginning of April every year. USCIS will release this documentation in the portal where you filed for H-1B registration. If you're selected, USCIS will send you a receipt notice saying that you need to file the application within 90 days. At that point, your attorney needs to file a labor condition application confirming the wage and working condition requirements. Once the LC is approved, you need to prepare some other forms, a petition letter, and put all the supporting documentation in the file and file it with the USCIS within the given time frame. Once the case is filed with USCIS, USCIS will issue a receipt notice saying that they received the application. There could be two courses of action. It could be a straight approval, which is everybody's dream, or the application could be RFE'd. RFE is for request for evidence. USCIS has additional questions about the application, and this is very common. Once you receive the RFE, you will have 30 to 90 days to respond, and that RFE needs to be responded properly if you want your case to be approved. This may add another 3 to 6 months to the adjudication process. Once the application is approved, the earliest date you can start working for your employer is October 1st, because that's the start of the fiscal year. If the adjudication takes longer and the case gets after October, then once you have the approval notice, you can start working for the company. If you're in the US and you ask for a change of status from, let's say, an F1 to an H-1B, you don't need to leave. Once your application is approved, you can start working for the company as long as your application is approved as a change of status and you have a new I-94 in the approval notice stating that you are now H-1B. If you file the application as a consular processing, you will need to depart the US. Make sure you have an appointment at the US consulate or embassy to get your H-1B visa interview. Once you conclude your visa interview, you get an H-1B visa stamp on your passport. You can enter the US with an H-1B visa. Once the H-1B visa is approved, you can start working for that employer starting October 1st. Why? Because that's the start of the fiscal year every year in the United States. So let's say you registered your company on March 1st, you were selected in April, and then you filed your application in June, and it was a quick turnaround. USCIS approved your case within a few months, you will be able to start on October 1st. If the adjudication takes longer, it may take longer for you to start the H-1B employment. The initial H-1B validity period is for 3 years. You can spend up to 6 years in the US with an H-1B visa. This could be with different employers as long as they file an H-1B application for you. Let's say you get an H-1B approved for 3 years. 2 years later, you want to switch jobs and you want to go to a new employer. A new employer can file an H-1B application for you and have you work for them immediately without the need for another H-1B random lottery. The reason for that is because you were selected once in the last 6 years, you do not need to go under the H-1B lottery system again. Once you're in, you're good for 6 years. So what are some of the advantages of the H-1B visa? I think the most important part would be the dual intent, because H-1B visa allows you to pursue a green card application while you are working on an H-1B visa. In other words, 214B, which is ties with your own country, does not apply in the H-1B context. You may want to go back to your country, you may want to stay in the United States. You can both pursue the H-1B and the green card application together, and this is not a reason for denial. H-1B also allows you to work for multiple employers. This is called concurrent H-1B application. Let's say you have a full-time position. You also would like to work part-time for another company. You can do that by filing a new H-1B application part-time. So H-1B allows you to work for full-time and part-time for the same employer, or it allows you to work for multiple employers at the same time. One can be a full-time, the other can be a part-time. As many employers as you want, as long as you can fit them in your schedule. Dependent family members can get H-4 visas. Spouses cannot work on H-4 visas with certain exceptions, which is the subject of another video where I'm going to talk about how you can get an EAD, an employment authorization card, for an H-4 spouse. It is usually when a green card application is pending for the H-1B spouse. So now that we are in the H-1B quota season, how can you prepare for the H-1B visa? Start with finding an employer who can sponsor you for the H-1B visa. Not all employers can sponsor employees for the H-1B visa. For example, a small restaurant with 5 or 6 employees usually will not be able to sponsor you for an H-1B visa because USCIS doesn't think that a university degree is needed to run a restaurant or do anything within the restaurant. However, if your restaurant employs 20, 30 employees, work in several shifts, provide catering services together with the dining services, you may be able to convince USCIS that a person, especially in the finance or management department, would require a bachelor degree to be able to work in this big restaurant. The other important thing is gathering the documents. It could be your bachelor diploma, master diploma, it could be your transcripts. You need all of these to get a US equivalency evaluation. If you've already finished school in the US, you wouldn't need an evaluation. But if you went to school in a foreign country, then you would need this evaluation. If you don't have a bachelor degree and you're combining your education and experience together, then you would also need letters from your previous employers setting forth your experience in that specific job. And finally, you need a good business immigration lawyer because H-1B is a very complex process. There's a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of things that you need to do at certain periods. You need to be able to strategize the case properly because what you're doing right now will affect you a few months down the road. And finally, there's a very different jargon for the H-1B visa application that you should be aware of, which I wouldn't do it myself if I wasn't a lawyer. So today I try to explain you the basics of the H-1B application, the requirements for it, when to apply, and the current political climate around the H-1B applications today. We are now officially in the H-1B quota season. I hope that you can find an H-1B employer and you can get your H-1B approved this year. If you have any questions, please write in the comment section below. I'll try to respond to them as much as I can. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I will explore other visa options in the US in the other videos, and I will try to get into more complex issues with the H-1B, especially with respect to the concurrent green card application in the future videos. Hope to see you in the next video. Take care.